Kristen. Thank you for coming on. I know I'm sure you've had a busy day, but I really do appreciate the chance to chat with you. I think I'm your last one today, if I heard properly. So
For Canada.
you're free from Canada. Oh no.
I'm not done until 3, which is good, right?
That's right.
It's
Of
all about.
course. Of course. Well, I really do appreciate the chance to chat with you. For you at home, we're speaking with Krystin Ver Linden, the writer director of Alice, and I have lots of questions.
Okay.
Do you have time? No, I'm kidding. No, honestly, the film is wonderful. I love the film. It's really, really interesting, and it's just there's so much going on. It's just powerful. I was wondering if you can talk though first about the history, because in reading the notes, like honestly, the fact that this is based on anything historical is too shocking to even be believed.
Yeah, I mean that's how I wish I could say, yeah, I just dreamed this up one night and I started writing it. But in reality, my mom had sent me a bunch of articles, an email of articles. She didn't send me the hard copies. But anyway, they were like 12 stories of different accounts of people coming out in the 60s. And then I changed it to the 70s. In the 60s of people that were enslaved that didn't know slavery had ended. And they finally came out and told their stories. And they were so unbelievable, but so compelling, but also, this is going to sound weird, empowering in the sense of nobody that had experienced what they experienced portrayed themselves as a victim, but more or less were like really empowered, super, super grounded people that did amazing things with their lives. So that's what to me drew me in, because it was like, how can you go through so much hardship and still have these, deep, deep, deep grounded lives after that? And so that was the driving force. And within 48 hours of reading those, I remember sitting down at my computer on Final Draft and saying, okay, what would just the opening scene look like? And I really didn't have the intention of like, I'm going to write a movie about this. It was just playing around with the idea of what would that look like based on the excitement of reading those. And then I just kept going and going and going. And the first draft I wrote in 7 days.
Wow. Wow. That's now I've heard that it's often you as a writer, I mean, oftentimes you write and you pass it on and somebody else brings it visually, but you knew that you wanted to be behind the camera on this one.
Yeah.
I was wondering what was it that you connected your heart so deeply to Alice?
Because there was a part of me in Alice. Growing up, I felt like I didn't have a voice. I grew up in a small town that was primarily Caucasian, and my mom's Black, my dad's white. So you kind of feel like a fish out of water. You're the only one of your kind in that town. And so, you don't, when you don't feel like you fit in, or you have a real voice and you're longing to be in a different world, there was no way that I could write Alice and not have that part of me in it, but also feel extremely connected to her and feel in some ways that she was someone that I wish I had as a kid. So her story was the pull to keep writing it, because I could relate to it. And that's why I said, that's why I knew it wasn't something that I just wanted to have a studio option or to just sell, but I was willing to attach myself as a director, knowing that, the odds are someone's not going to take a chance on someone that's never made anything or has a short film. but I was willing to take that risk because it was something that I wanted to tell because I felt so connected to it.
Yeah. It's the film feels like I would say personal,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure if that's the word to use because it's so. But it does. There's. It feels like a very personal film.
Oh, thank you.
With, Mhm. I was wondering too. Like, I mean, you've got. This is the thing about this film is it has two very different worlds
Mm-hmm.
held in tandem and held in tension of one another. Um, First and foremost, I was wondering what aspects were the most important to you to demonstrate on screen,
Mm-hmm.
and second of all, do you feel like you gain new perspective on them both held up against each other?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I really wanted to make sure worked was the transition between those two. So it didn't just feel like you stuck to genres, a Southern Gothic movie and a blaxploitation movie together, and it just doesn't work. So it was the bridge that I was concerned about. But yeah, I mean, I really wanted, as a film nerd, I really just took delight in knowing, okay, for the first 30 minutes, I get to make a Southern Gothic, thriller, and then pulling from all of the Southern Gothic thrillers that I love, like Night of the Hunter with Robert Mitchum, and being able to, set the tone for what that looked like, which is I wanted to desaturate the movie so that it didn't have the gleam and shine that a lot of movies that take place on plantations do, where the house is really white and everything's like perfect and pristine and just feels too, good. I wanted to kind of make it look unglamorous. So I took the color, a lot of the color out of the first 30 minutes. And when she runs out, I actually oversaturated it because in reality, for someone like Alice, she would have never seen the color yellow. There would be no reason on earth that she would ever see that color. There's nothing on that plantation that would ever be that color. So when the first thing she sees is some big yellow thing barreling down something she's never seen, it's just, I wanted to make that, I wanted to make all of the colors pop, almost like a comic book. And I don't know if that answers the question, but I went off on that. I veered off on that.
That's okay. Well, I do love that about the film is they're two different worlds, but it also doesn't feel like a shocking twist. It doesn't feel like you're trying to, get the audience to like go ooh, but at the same time, it is that, if that makes any sense. Like you're flash forwarding her. It almost feels like you're time traveling her from one to the next without doing so. And it's the influence of what I was wondering too is the influence on Pam Grier, or not on Pam Grier, of Pam Grier in this film, because Foxy Brown. I love Foxy Brown. Is a great film.
Me too.
And I was wondering, like, what is it about her that is such an inspiration for you?
Yeah, she was my hero growing up, and even as a teenager and young adult, she was someone that I just deeply admired on film for her movies. And, a lot of Pam Grier's films weren't corny the way some blaxploitation movies can be. There's like any genre, there's great movies in a genre and crappy movies in a genre. And her movies, like Coffee is a good example, that when you boil it down, it's a really beautiful drama, and she's a really powerful character in that, and she overcomes a ton of adversity, and she never becomes the victim, and she ultimately it's not even a happy ending. She walks away with a broken heart, but you leave that movie feeling super, super empowered. And even as an actress for her time, the things she would speak on and the things she wasn't afraid to address, I just deeply admire Pam Grier. And so she was my hero. So as a writer, everything is a form of catharsis. So I, of course, wanted, as the shepherd for Alice, I wanted to put people in her life that would make her feel the way they made me feel, which was empowered and made me feel like, I can speak up, and I don't have to worry about how that makes me look or feel, as long as it's the truth. so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And along those lines, first of all, and I will say Kiki's wonderful. She does a great job. I mean, it's one thing to take a character, but to take a character on the arc between these two that's incredible skill. But one of the key themes that I heard, that I spoke, man, I'd like you to speak to it, is the idea of the power of the storyteller. Because within this film, you've got two very different voices that seem to speak to Alice in different ways. Especially, we see it at the beginning, of course, with even the use of scripture and the imposition of that story to her time out in the I was going to say in the 70s, but she was in the 70s at the beginning of the film too. But in that 70s, she said no. But I was wondering if you could speak to that idea and how that affected your writing.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's just catharsis, because storytelling has affected my entire life. Without stories, I mean, I don't know, I'm a embodiment of the stories that I've read. And so I really wanted to make it a point for her, and just a point for movies that have this subject matter, that stories can take you to other places, because we get a glimpse that she's reading books, and that's her form of escapism. And even when she decides to go back, she uses books to learn about things that she's going to need to do. So storytelling in every medium, because I also use, the television as a way for her to see certain things, and the encyclopedias to see her history. So to me, it was just important to inject that storytelling, even if mediums change and alter from theaters to streaming to now books aren't being read as much, but podcasts are being read. It's still storytelling at the end of the day. And that's something that as humans will always be the most powerful gift that we have to give to each other for the next generation. So that's kind of what I was trying to get across.
Yeah, and I really sense that, because it is true. I mean, the stories that we tell now affect the way we shape our world and the world beyond us. And not just the stories, who is telling them.
Yes.
As well, and the way and the feel, the not the feelings behind them, the agendas behind them, and all of these things. So
yeah,
honestly, I really do appreciate the chance to speak with you, Krystin. This is
thank you so much.
Yeah, it's theatrical. Sorry.
Yes, so it's in theaters March 18th, which is this Friday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really do appreciate it. I wish you the best. And,
thank you. And have a good day, our cousins in Canada.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
All right. Thanks so much.